welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. Speaking of Patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon, so a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Michael Kahn, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Mel B. Styles, Troy Shuker, Bose Nail, Sampson, Maris, Mobile Mac 777, Neo the One, Lost Cat FE, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Mike, Muted, Dick Earth Skeptic, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Rob H, The Real Gabster, Wind Rider, Liam Nedrick Jr., Abraham Mohammed, Naibai, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic936, Life is Short, Fireball X, TheFlatEarthChannel.com, Texas Mike, Edwin Johnson, and David Wayne Foster. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I'm going to hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their conversation while I set up for today's live show.
About that, Sagan, and when he brought, what's his name, Neil deGrasse Tyson over to stay over because he missed his transportation because it reminded him of him. But he went on to say how he had a show and he was claiming how we're just an insignificant speck of dust. Earth is insignificant, small little speck of dust. He went out of there feeling like nothing mattered anymore. Something to that effect.
Yeah. Nihilism, basically. Inherent to the heliocentric system as a religion.
Oh, that's great if you're a sick bastard. Then you don't have no judgment coming.
Yeah, that's one way of looking at it. Along those lines, not that I have anything particularly sick that I'm going to be judged for, but obviously nobody's perfect. Everyone's a sinner, whatever you want to look, whichever way you want to look at it, and no one wants to face their own monsters, least of all me. And you come to the subject of flat Earth, and then very quickly you contemplate that. And for me personally, I very quickly shut that in a door somewhere, shut that in a cupboard somewhere else. I don't want to think about that. Creator, no. I can still hang on to that bit. And for the entire time, of people around me, especially Christians, going, no, you're wrong. And me going, whatever. Fighting against it. In the back of my mind, I knew. And it was, that was nothing to do with the nature of reality in terms of it being flat or a sphere. The bit that I struggled with was that, the contemplation that there could be a creator. That I really struggled with for the longest time. I'm at peace with it now, and to be perfectly honest, although I faced them again, you have to face your demons. You have to contemplate what you are, and am I a good person or am I a complete shit? And I'd already faced those monsters before, so it's not like it was that big of a deal. But by the same token, nobody likes their horrible self when you look in the mirror, right? That's why a lot of the people that we deal with project their evil and nasty nature onto us, or their stupidity, doesn't matter which.
The heliocentric model literally drove me away from God.
Yeah.
Whoa. Was I not speaking? Can you not hear me?
There's gates. If somebody starts talking
Hello?
before you and you just carry on talking through them, it's gated, Neil. So, no, we can't. It's gated.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Now no
I
one's
had
talking,
about
we
5
can,
words
yeah.
out, so come on.
Come on,
Okay,
Neil.
so the good news is, holy shit, forget it.
No, I don't want to. It sounds really important. And you've got your mic wide open now.
Now I do. The good news is that we're all no good in the eyes of God. Everybody's a sinner, and there's no totem pole for sin. It's all sin.
I'm a very special snowflake, I'll have you know.
I mean, but who does it benefit more, right? It benefits If you're just a speck of dust in an insignificant universe, I mean, who
Then
does
none
it
of it really
benefit more?
matters. Then none of it really matters, does
Right.
it, Neil?
Exactly. Go out and do what the hell you want.
The
I
big
was
old
raised Catholic, and I remember one day I was like, "God, let me get to the bottom of this Jesus thing." And so I went to my parents' Bible and I opened it up and I started reading Genesis. And I was like, "This isn't what we were taught in school. Like, this isn't lining up to anything they said." And so I at that point, I threw out the Bible and I kept the heliocentric model, and then I just kept leaving God from there. And then flat Earth coincide. I already had come back to God, but flat Earth helped me make it stronger and come back.
and then you find
It's interesting when I look back.
and then you go full circle and realise that it's the church that's come up with all this shit. It's their rhetoric.
Yeah, too, exactly. And I was raised Catholic, and now I can see like basically everything the Catholic Church does is the opposite of what the Bible says.
Yeah, I always use this story, but Jaron talking about being educated in a Jesuit school and scratching his head going, why are they teaching us about Copernican model? I don't get it. And then you look back through history, it's like them that came up with it. It's their model.
Models.
I was also researching DNA recently, and just trying to figure out what it is exactly, because they have these mRNA like so-called medicines that they're injecting into people, and there's no pictures of DNA. Like, you can't take a picture of DNA, and it's a model as well. It's just a model. I don't know what, but it's a model, is what I've learned.
Yeah, it's a convention. There's a danger whenever you have a convention to throw it out. So you could say the second law of thermodynamics is just a description. So therefore, not valid? Well, no, it's just a description. And if the description's proven to be incorrect, then it's no longer a law. Now, in the case of the first and second law of thermodynamics we cite so often, they are laws because they occur always, and nobody's showing them not occurring. So that's why they stand as laws of nature, but they're merely descriptions. Likewise, when you've got a convention, there's nothing wrong with having a convention. Let's take it away from your example, just so it doesn't in any way trigger any responses that I don't want it to. If you talk about the taxonomic classification system, when you arbitrarily assign groups to animals, this is in a particular group, yeah? Well, when you do that, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with naming things and putting them in groups. It's only when you work outside of the convention. For instance, saying that one group has modified itself into the other group over time. Well, what are the groups? What you've arbitrarily assigned to them? So suddenly you're working outside of a convention. That's a perfectly suitable convention. There's nothing wrong with naming things and grouping them together to get a better understanding or be able to detail them. It's just a convention used to describe things in language. That's useful. Working outside of the convention is where the problems begin. Normally you'll see causal relationships ascribed to attributions of these assigned arbitrarily groups or categories to things. Suddenly you've got causal relationships going on. That's nice, Nathan. I'm glad you went through it. Me too.
No, I agree. I agree with what you said. I'm gonna do laundry stuff, and I'm solo today because my wife. As a matter of fact, Nathan, when you had that thing with your mouth, what was going on, and how long were you out?
I had an infection in my jaw and I was out for about a week and a half. I did do 2 shows or I can't remember, 1 or 2 shows in a massive amount of pain. I just didn't tell anyone.
Yeah, my wife is in serious pain. I think she has the same thing. It started with her wisdom tooth, but it's at the bottom of her jaw and it's all infected. So she's out of commission.
Yeah, just go
I
to the
call it
dentist.
an abscess too.
No, it
No,
wasn't
for
an
me it
abscess.
wasn't,
It was
no.
a wisdom tooth got infected.
Not for me, no.
Got it? Yeah, your teeth were perfect, right?
Yeah, there was nothing wrong with them. It still isn't.
Yeah, my wife too. But just the wisdom tooth, whatever was going on, they had to get it out. So, but anyway, I'm solo today, and it's not easy.
Okay.
Laundry day.
Okay. You're not a modern man then, Neil.
No.
Your pain.
I've got no sympathy.
Oh, look, if you're of an alien nation before you go into the bathroom, and you're of an alien nation while you're in the bathroom, no, when you leave the bathroom, what are you when you're in the bathroom?
I've no idea what you're talking
European.
about. Nurse, he's doing it again.
European.
European, very good.
How boomer of you.
So some people off
You're
mute.
fine. No, you're just full of poo.
Yes, can we leave the toilet humour before the live show starts?
I jumped in when you were talking about the classification system. It's a convention. Were you talking about evolution? Is that what you're talking about when I first came in?
Not exactly, no, DNA, but I just took it away and used the taxonomic classification system as a comparison to say working outside of conventions is where the problems begin. But I suppose they are linked.
I've got all these phones laying on my table. They're laying out. They've got very similar characteristics. You know, they all have software. They all have a CPU. They look similar in a lot of ways. The operating system looks similar, but there's slight differences. And I classify all these things. What is the outcome of my classifying and seeing all the similarities of these phones laying in front of me?
Couldn't it? You mumbled the last bit of the sentence. Say it again. Ask the question again.
What are the outcome of me classifying the cell phones laying on my table? What are the outcome? What is the result? Like what can I draw from that
Nothing. You can just
analogy?
verbalize it, classifying something, and then being able to describe it to me verbally. That's useful. You can do that.
But does that determine where the phone came from, or the lineage of the cell phone, or anything else? With these bunch of cell
Potentially,
phones?
yeah, potentially. You could incorporate the origin of the cell phone within the title. It could be your Chinese Samsung phone, and therefore the title would incorporate the location. Depends how clever you are at naming things.
Yeah, well, you could see similarities, and you could argue that they do have a similar lineage. But if their phones are similar, you could determine maybe who their designer was, or that they may have all came from the same designer. Like Samsung phones have very characteristic things compared to Apple phones or Nokia phones or whatever. So just because you classify something and you see similarities in it doesn't mean anything other than it could be from the same designer. It could be from the same lineage, or it could be the same, method, but it doesn't really do anything. It's your worldview you impose on it will determine it, what you do with the data.
Yeah, it's merely a way of you ascribing descriptive terms to something, but how well you describe it or how accurately it defines what it is just down to how good you are at defining and describing things.
Just because there's similarity between those things, like I could have a cell phone and an Apple phone, both have CPUs, both have operating systems, both have icons, but does that mean they came from the same location?
Certainly not with cars. You can have identical
No.
badges
Okay.
and designations, and they'd be built in totally different ways, not with different parts, but in different ways by different people in different countries. So they roll off the factory production line looking identical. Might be painted in the exact same paint color, but one's a bag of crap and the other one's quite well built.
Well, determine which one of those are. We'll keep our opinions to ourselves.
I didn't give any examples, did I?
Okay. Excuse me. Sorry.
They'd all use the same technology, though, wouldn't they? They'd just be put together slightly differently.
Yeah, because it's made
there
in a
a-
different factory in a different location. So it could be made with identical parts.
Is there a logical fallacy here?
Say again?
Like what? What logical fallacy is it?
I don't know. That's what I'm trying to figure out.
But which part are you suggesting is a logical fallacy? I doubt it, because I'd have probably highlighted it. Not that I'm like the encyclopedia of fallacies, but if it was an obvious one, I'd have probably caught it by now. Working outside of a convention is just that.
I don't know. Like, if cell phones, then they all have the same origin. Is that affirming the consequent?
No,
I don't know,
it's
something like that.
pretty close to a denying the antecedent. So, in an argument about evolution, it'd be if they're buried together, they existed together. They're not buried together, therefore they didn't exist together. That's a denying the antecedent for formal logical fallacy. They say these weren't found in that lot of rock, therefore they weren't in existence in that time period. It's like, okay, forgetting the fact that you've timed or dated the rocks by way of the fossils and the fossils by way of the rocks. If they're not in there, suddenly they didn't exist at that time. That's, yeah, denying the antecedent, formal logical fallacy. Close.
Oh, that's cool. Hey, you were saying there was a guy that you like to listen to on YouTube that would just read out logical fallacies to you. What was his name again?
Steve HV.
Would you say HV?
Correct.
Okay, Steve HV.
Yep. I mean, that's in terms of what it does with fallacies. It just looks up a fallacy he's interested in detailing and then details it. He does a lot of other stuff. It's not all he does. He's a YouTuber.
Logical fallacies are really fun for me. I don't know. I really enjoy learning about them because then I can just stump my dad with them because he thinks he knows way more than me.
Yeah, I'll give an example of the fallacy when we start the live show in a minute, because there was an example that came up on a what do you call it? The behavioural panel is what they're called, or the behaviour panel. And one of the hosts used a logical fallacy as an example of good logic, which was the worst part of it, amusing nonetheless. But in order to prove something that was inherently true to begin with, yeah. So, I think it was actually unicorns. It could have been unicorns. I can't remember. But he used a logical fallacy to say unicorns weren't real, or you couldn't prove their existence. And if I was to point out that because he used a logical fallacy to claim that you couldn't prove unicorns, that would mean that because there's a fallacy there being employed that they are real. Yeah? That's the fallacy, which is to say that because somebody's used a fallacy to make a point, that ultimately makes their point invalid and also untrue. Now, in the case of unicorns, the burden of proof then falls on the person that's making the positive claim if you're going to claim that the fallacy itself disproves the assertion, which it doesn't. You know, it's inherently true there is no evidence of unicorns, so therefore if I state that with a logical fallacy attached, it doesn't mean that you can come along and say, you used a fallacy to claim that unicorns aren't real, therefore they are. That's the fallacy. Just squeezed it in before the live show starts. And everyone's
Unicorns are real. They're in the Bible.
Say again, Neil.
Unicorns are real. It says so in the Bible.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, we are joined by Neil and a whole bunch of people in Discord. A bit light on guests today, but welcome one and all.
Hey, good morning.
Hello.
Hooray for the 3000% enthusiasm level.
Where's everybody on the panel?
I don't know. This is somehow how it goes, Neil. Back in the day, I used to start the show with literally no one here. Today, there's merely 14 people plus myself. It seems a bit thin on the ground. I'm sure we can manage to get our way through housekeeping with just yourself and Arwin on the panel.
Hey, Owen.
Hey, Arwin.
Hello.
Good to have you. We can do a bit of housekeeping. You ready, Arwin?
Sure. Whoa, is it just me and Neil here?
I don't think we need to dwell on that too much. I'm sure it'll pick up.
Hello, Neil.
Ready for housekeeping?
Yeah, sure.
About everyone in Discord.
Yes.
Yes, Nathan, we're really keen. Oh, that's so good to hear.
Yeah, let's do it.
Any evidence of a physical, geometric sphere edge, that's a horizon formerly known as Earth curve?
No.
Well, somebody was still arguing in my chat today that every sighting is still all loomed above the actual horizon. I tried to explain to them that refraction cannot displace the horizon in relation to the horizon, but it seemed to have a lot of trouble understanding that. So I still think it's possible.
We only have one horizon, and the horizon in their begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator is physical and geometric. It must be for them to derive an R value from it by way of a tangent to it. Their maths uses a tangent in order to assert physical blockage at the horizon. So to assert that it's been refracted implodes their geometry.
Yeah, because they have no more R. They have no more ball. The ball's taken away.
Took the words out of my
Well,
mouth.
The black swan.
I
the words out
don't
of
know
my
if I totally agree with that, since it's just the few of us. I can totally take control over this hangout. No, but I don't technically agree that by them inserting refraction that it breaks the geometry. It's just that how they claim refraction just doesn't work. Like, no, it's just wrong.
Okay,
The
can I break it down
refraction
for you if you don't
itself,
think I'm right?
if it would be possible, it's
Okay.
not going to break the geometry. It's just not possible.
Just
like
keep
that.
saying it, just chant it indefinitely. Yeah, can I explain how it will?
Okay.
Okay, in the begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking curve calculator, it's got a tangent, Arwin. Now the tangent line is drawn and it's straight. You understand that? In
Yeah.
order to do the geometry, you need a tangent line, a straight line to the tangent point to perform the geometry. Do you appreciate that?
Technically, yes.
Technically, yes. Just yes. Yes, you will require a tangent to do their Earth curve geometry. That is required by the geometry.
If that is the only origin in order to determine the geometry, then yes, technically yes.
Okay, not technically, it just is yes. To do the geometry, they require a tangent. That's how it is done. You still saying technically yes, or can we move on?
Well,
You
is that
can't do it
incorrect to
without
say
it.
technically yes?
Am I
Technically
right,
yes
Nathan?
is
You can't do it without it.
technically yes is peppering it with some Weasley words now, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, can we not?
Technically yes.
Any chance we can just keep it concise and accurate? Yeah, they need a tangent. That's a straight line, Arwin. And if the line to the tangent point, that would be the horizon, is bent, then it isn't a tangent required to do the geometry, Arwin.
Right. So yeah, that makes it very difficult for them to have basically come to the conclusion of the assumed current geometry, indeed. But hey, if it turns out that it is that geometry, then it's not really an obstacle to them.
Well, no, it can't be that geometry, because if the Earth was a sphere radius 3959, every distance to horizon could be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, and the black swan images show, beyond all certitude, that the horizon is beyond the limitation of a geometric sphere radius 3959, therefore the Earth is not a sphere.
I might have evidence
if
of a
optics,
physical
as
horizon.
we've been taught, it makes sense, then indeed.
Well done. Eric says he's got evidence of a what now?
Maybe this could be evidence of a physical horizon, where the container meets the land.
Where the container meets the land.
Yeah, that would, because you can't go any further than that. So that would, if you're looking that direction, that would be the horizon, physically.
Cool. When did you test that?
The horizon's not the edge of the container. What are you talking about?
I don't know. I'm just trying to think of something.
No, okay.
He's talking about the edge of the
Yeah,
firmament.
you
where
don't
the
even-
firmament meets the land.
No, he's not, Neil. Don't just...
Yeah, but you don't know what the firmament, if it does touch down anywhere, is going to look like. It might just that be transparent. You look at it, and it seems like there's more land beyond, and still a horizon. So you don't know what you're going to find, even if you find this touchdown point.
Precisely. You don't know what you don't know. Any evidence that we can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container?
Yeah.
No,
No.
that's impossible. You need
Ooh.
containment to have gas pressure.
What about scientific evidence of gravity?
Well, by the current logic, the conclusion would be we have gas pressure, so therefore there must be gravity in order for that to be possible within the infinite vacuum of space. Right?
Sorry, what infinite vacuum of space now?
I know, right?
No. What infinite vacuum of space? If the sky was a vacuum, the gas we
Hello,
breathe...
hello, hello.
The one in all the pictures that they tell us is there.
Go on, Angel HD. Oh no, they've gone on server mute already. Server deafen, rather. Okay. That was weird.
How come you ask for scientific evidence of gravity? What if someone just presents non-scientific evidence of gravity?
The reason we're asking for scientific evidence is because it's claimed as science. They use that vernacular when they use their words for science. They tell us how they've got experiments and theories. So we ask for scientific evidence.
If someone came in here and debated you and said, I don't have scientific evidence, but I have evidence,
I'd
where would the
probably hear 'em out.
conversation go from there?
Sure, we'd hear them out.
Well, what's the difference between scientific evidence and evidence?
Scientific evidence has been through the scientific method. That would be observe a natural phenomena, formulate a hypothesis with a null, perform systematic experimentation. That would be scientific evidence. If you validate your alternative hypothesis, you can then go on to formulate theory. So, phenomena, hypothesis, experiment, theory. That's scientific evidence.
But if someone came in here and claimed non-scientific evidence of gravity, they could present the Cavendish, couldn't they? Because that's not science, but like it
It's
seems
not
to
a
be
phenomena
like
either.
following their nonsense, huh?
Not a phenomena. That's a piece of technology. So when people say, okay, well, I haven't got scientific evidence, that's unfortunate because we exclusively deal with our nature of our reality. That's the physical and natural world. That's physics. So it's not unreasonable when you're dealing with the physical and natural world to ask for physics. If you say, well, no, I'm going to use technology to claim I've got a phenomena. Oh, well, this sounds very sciencey now, doesn't it? Because the claim that Cavendish is making is a phenomena that we don't experience and is violated by gas. Gas doesn't go down, go boom, boom. But the assertion within the apparatus demonstrated by technology to conjure a phenomena is often using scientific vernacular. It's called the Cavendish experiment, which it isn't. So there's no getting around it just by saying, well, I'm not going to call it an experiment then. Okay, well, what's it doing exactly? Well, it's generating this notion that we've always got a down for everything. What about gas? That's not going down. The end of that argument. What about any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics? Well, isn't this exciting? These are the priesthoods of the heliocentric religion. They
I
often use
can't
the
think of
words of
any
science.
evidence.
Yeah, that's it. It's straight through the middle of me when I leave a gap.
I'm trying to get to my mute button, but I'm busy doing things.
I would
Sorry.
suggest
No,
when you
I
get to
can't
it,
find any
don't worry
evidence of
about what's
anything.
going on like I'm doing. Just talk straight through the middle of anybody once you get to it, Neil. Hey, John.
Hey, how y'all doing?
Okay, can I speak now?
You may.
Great. Hi. How are you doing, John? Glad to have you. We
Right,
need
that's
some
your lot.
help
Go back
today.
on mute. I'm only joking, Neil. No, there's no whistling from 10th Man punctuating the conversation today. Shall I add it as a special effect? No.
I think he got a little offended with that because he talked about it after the show. He brought it up.
What? He's offended that I mentioned that his microphone whistles when he sits off mute. It does.
I think it has something to do with his audio system because he says, I hear the whistling too, but it's not me, you know?
It's all right. It's one of those things. It's a quirk of the show. It used to drive me bonkers back in the beginning days when it was chaos on more than one front. the audio chaos, because I'm interested in that on a personal level, was the thing that frustrated me the most, if I'm honest. Now I can smile about it. I have to, otherwise I'd just go nuts. Anyway, any evidence of the distance to the sun?
It's supposed to be over there, but with this lighting, I just can't make up just from the visuals where it's supposed to be.
Did you see my short that I put out about the sun?
No? When did that happen?
Did it this morning, so I saw. I don't want to get his channel name wrong. I'm just going to look it up so I don't get it wrong. I think it's 5 Arts Temporis, something like that. Let's just see if I can read it off. Where is it? Yeah, LXXXVIII Finis Temporis FINIS space TEMPORIS. What a name! LXXXVIII space FINIS space TEMPORIS. There you go. So he released a video which is an edited down version of a movie from 1970 called The Man Who Haunted Him, or Hunted Himself, I should say. The Man Who Hunted Himself. There we go, I'll get it right. Anyway, in that, there's a clip where the Roger Moore character goes into a planetarium and they let the overdub of the planetarium voiceover come into the audio track of the movie. So obviously you're intended to hear it as they describe Earth as a speck of dust and you as a speck of dust on that speck of dust. So I thought, yeah, I've said that so many times. I think I got it originally from Neil deGrasse Tyson, but it's nice to hear an earlier version of it. So I thought I'll trim that out, and I titled it "Know Your Place," because that is your place, fundies. Speck of dust, totally insignificant on a flying speck of dust in a soup of nothingness.
No, I didn't see that come by in my notifications for some reason.
They go out to a different crowd, so I understand it. The shorts, we will continue. Housekeeping will continue momentarily. The shorts go out to a different crowd, so they're labelled up differently, and depending on what device you're watching out on, you'll see them or you won't see them. So there's plenty of people that publish shorts, and only a scattering of them will make it through to your subscriptions feeds. But they'll make it out to a different bunch of people. So after watching a load of other people recommending them and why and what it does in the algorithm, I was like, I should be doing this, really. That, and lots of people have been pleased with the 3-minute videos I've been doing as trailers for the premiering shows. So people have been going, I really like the short versions. So they were originally just intended as trailers, and I've been boshing them out after the main video comes out. So like a day or two later, or maybe a week later, I'll release what was originally just a trailer for a main 10, 15, 20-minute video. But people are like, yeah, I really like the short version. You're like, well, I suppose that makes sense, because what I'm effectively doing in the trailer is condensing it down to the main points in 3 minutes. Not great from an ad revenue perspective, but if people like them, it's like, well, you've got to give the audience what they want regardless. So I started pumping those out. And then, like I say, watching videos about shorts. If you're a YouTuber currently and you're not making shorts, as much as I hate the format, I absolutely loathe that format. The narrow, thin, skinny on a phone format. I hate that. It goes against every fibre of my being. Since being a YouTuber on camera, one of the things I've said to people, please, for the love of God, film things in HD. Don't film it in that crap, horrible, low-res, narrow aspect ratio. Don't hold your phone like a phone when you're filming something. When it becomes a camera, hold it like a camera. Hold it horizontally. And now you've got this whole format from TikTok and YouTube and Instagram where they're all punting. Nah, catch it in as low resolution as you can. In the most horrible format that looks purely nasty and horrible when it comes up on anything other than a phone. But there we go. That's
180p. That's great.
Can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
Remember when you said about that speck of dust? You're only a speck of dust as what they're punting around. Well, as a man thinks in his heart, so he is, right? If you get people to think like this is who they innately become, if that's the right word.
Absolutely. It's a nihilistic system that's trying to make you believe that you're insignificant and anything you do isn't really going to make any difference to the universe at large, because in the big scheme of things, you're a speck of dust on a speck of dust in a very large area of nothing with very little going on. So pretty much anything you do doesn't really count or mean anything, really. That's the heliocentric world.
Just glorified rocks, right? Cousins.
Yeah, we're born from rocks, that's right. Heart of dying stars, imploding, then exploding out that debris that's been compressed down through ever increasing metals and their weights by way of fusion reactions that then spread out throughout the vast galaxy to eventually coalesce through gravitational accretion in pseudo force space to form the very rocks that we're standing on, and then through slime and electricity we have life. So basically we're cousins to rocks. What an absolute pile of crap.
With any luck, Thea will be another reason.
Leave my
Go on, Neil. Right through the middle of him. Go on. Go on, John.
I was going to say, hopefully here in the next couple of months, Thea will be the new reason for life on this planet.
It already is.
With any luck.
You mean that they'll regurgitate that story again?
No, they'll say that life was brought here by Thea.
Oh, I see. Just to refresh anybody who's unfamiliar with the story of Thea, so I'll ask the question first. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
No.
No.
Okay, now I'll tell the story of Thea. I'll keep it brief. Earth, as a small fledgling planet in the solar system, was claimed to have had a collision, an impact with another dwarf planet on almost the same orbital trajectory as the fledgling Earth. Upon collision with the fledgling Earth, this planet, called Thea, deposited its molten iron core on top of the fledgling Earth's molten iron core, having only impacted with a glancing blow. The debris then coalesced through the gravitational accretion in pseudo force space asserted by Einstein to form and coalesce into our moon. So our moon is the debris of a collision between the fledgling Earth, hence moon rocks are actually petrified wood. Sorry, I had to drop that in there. And yeah, that's all true because they made it up themselves.
Right, but the petrified wood, or the wood, was actually on Thea. Earth didn't have any of that stuff.
Yeah. Thea was covered in trees and moss and shit like that, and it smashed into Earth, and the fiery mess that was ensuing didn't necessarily kill it all off. There's obviously tardigrades and very hearty stuff that managed to survive, and that's how we got life. And yeah, well, why not? Let's just pepper this bullshit with a bit more nonsense.
Oh,
So
yeah.
why
Oh, yeah,
doesn't
well,
anything live on the
Amen.
moon then?
You can have it living on the moon if you want to in a heliocentric world. Do you not hear them talking about aliens on the dark side of the moon occasionally? You can do anything you like in a heliocentric model. If you want it to be life on the dark side of the moon, because it's a sphere, obviously, in an orbit, obviously, around us is a sphere, obviously, and on the back side of it is aliens, if you like. Why not? You can do whatever you like, it's just a model.
You know, I was just thinking about something, Nathan. You know, when when they construct vehicles, or we were talking about cell phones earlier, they have all the components they need in the factory to put the pieces together, right, to make a phone, car, airplane, whatever they're doing. You have to have it in one location. Well, when it comes to life, what if you only have, let's say, the cell membrane in this pool, but you have the amino acids in that pool, and the carbohydrates in another pool? How do you get all the pools together to make the first life?
Just need enough time.
When they all have to be in the same pool? Just,
Time.
they have enough time.
Yeah, if you
So
can extend
time
the
is the
clock.
cause.
That's right. If you can extend the clock long enough and you stand in a sand dune, eventually you'll see a beautiful sandcastle appear. It's just the way it happens. With enough time, that'll happen. Specified.
Oh, well, so I guess it would be the time is the cause of the tractor and trailer that brings the materials to the factory. So that's the actual cause, right? The tractor and trailer.
I'm not saying
That
time
would
is the
be what
cause.
you
I'm
mean.
saying with enough time, functional sequence specified complexity will develop out of nothing. That's just how life is, according to the worldview that we're born out of rocks.
Oh, don't misunderstand what I'm saying though, Nathan. Doesn't it take time for things to travel? So then you could still say, the tractor and trailer is the time that caused the tractor and trailer to bring the materials to the factory, right?
In all seriousness, no.
I'm
I know you're being facetious. Yes, I know.
being facetious, exactly.
But no,
So,
no
okay.
matter how much time you wait, unless somebody's actually physically causing the manufacturing process to take place and then sticking it on the back of the wagon, no amount of time will just mean that your parts arrive.
Well, something else too, when it comes to chemical process, timing is crucial. Like if you're trying to make a reaction, trying to create something, you need to introduce another chemical probably at a certain moment when the other reaction is occurring to get the product you're after. So what happens when this thing is producing in the primordial soup, but the tractor and trailer shows up late? What happens to the chemical reaction at that point? It's done. It doesn't work anymore.
They're different types.
A lot of problems with the biogenesis. What's that?
You're going to have different types. When you're talking biological systems, then the molecules, the proteins you're making, they're not energetically favorable reactions. Chemical stuff goes one way because it's favored energetically. If it's not favored energetically, the things don't react. And this is the thing with life. It combines things that wouldn't be combinable just via energetic favorability.
Isn't the way they're combined in terms of the process and the instruction manuals for doing so so complex that this couldn't just happen with time?
Yeah, because it's not necessarily a straightforward equilibrium-based reaction, which is what the elements are doing. It's a specified sequence that you're changing and tweaking at points. Those points aren't defined by the entropy. Yeah, they're not defined by, they're defined via specification and manipulation of those pre-specified points.
That's kind of what I'm alluding to.
Proving my Thea story.
That's kind of what I'm alluding to, Adam, in one sense of the word, is there has to be a sequence of events, and then if you want to create another compound, you have to put another molecule, whatever you're doing, in the process, at a certain point of your development to create another compound.
Yeah, that's instructional.
That's kind of what I'm driving at.
That's instructional. That's information based.
Oh, Nathan, don't talk about that. Don't go there. You can't have that.
That's why they have the infinite universe.
Let's just hold on before we tangent this off onto infinite universes. No, so in order to have that, Paul, you'd have to have information. Well, what is information? Well, in order to have information, you've got to have a knower.
Yep, and within that, there's got to be like information is a kind of a yes, this, but not that kind of thought process, and that can't happen through just pure chemical process.
Well, you're saying intelligence, aren't you? Basically.
Yep.
So therefore, to have this,
I want this, but I don't. Oops, sorry, go ahead.
It's okay. I was going to say, to have this intelligent process and information, you need intelligence first.
Yep. Someone to be able to choose and decide.
And maybe they had that on Thea.
Oh my God.
Well, he just kicked the can down the road. He just kicked it down the road a little bit further. That's all he did.
Yeah, we can't say what they had for sure on Thea or not.
But who knew the knower?
Yeah, that's an infinite regress fallacy. Let's not get into that. An evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety.
They found the R value for the axis yet?
No, that was quick. I think that's it. I think I covered everything, did I not? That concludes housekeeping. Interesting housekeeping session, considering we were talking about God in the pre-show. Just by coincidence.
I was watching the numpty clips, and I was wondering if there's the opposite of numpty clips, where the best baller, not arguments, because they have no arguments, but the best baller tactics that can really throw you off.
Watch any lawyer do their magic when they're on a losing case. It's not exactly a skill in terms of the debate, though, is it? I mean, yeah, I've done it myself and highlighted and detailed and made clips and shorts about the debating tactics that our opponents use and saying, look, this is just a tactic. They're not addressing the question. They're not addressing the argument. It's like, yeah, but why not just make the argument? Why not just put the argument across again? Forget about the fact that they're obfuscating it, trying to descend the discussion into chaos, ignoring the point, double speaking the point, contradicting themselves in the rebuttal. All of those things are useful to them because they've got a loser in terms of the point. That's why I keep going over things over and over and over, and people moan about it. They're like, are you done? What, highlighting this point that you want to obfuscate away from and talk through? No, I can't be done because you don't want to hear it. So until you sit down and actually listen to it, and eventually you'll have to concede if you do, then no, I'm not done. But you want me to be done, and you'll take me away from that conversation. And in so doing, and even talking about them doing it, they've won, because the audience listening to that just hears the obfuscation. They forget what the point was. They forget that you've won your point, even if they did concede for a moment. with a load of weasel words attached, which Arwin did right at the beginning of the show.
In the beginning of your debates, it sounded like you said that they used to have you begging the question with them, right? Was that the big one that was stumping you?
Yeah, basically, we were unaware right at the beginning of the debates when they bought the begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator that the moment we entertained any debate within that format, we had automatically lost. You're arguing about how much something should or shouldn't be behind a sphere edge that's already in place regardless. So the horizon in that argument is always going to be a sphere edge. And you're arguing about how much or how little there should be behind it. Well, you're already begging the question before you've even argued about how much it's right or wrong. It's like, how accurate is the maths of a sphere edge? So we're definitely talking about a sphere edge the entire time then. You've lost the moment you do that. But we didn't know that. You don't know what you don't know, right?
Ah, the good old days.
They're the days that the ballers used to like coming here. When they got to beg the question. When we allowed that, they used to come in droves. I'd be outnumbered 10-1.
Indeed. Yeah, every time you start talking about it, they always get nostalgic. And then they remember, wait, we have to say now that we never claimed the horizon was a sphere edge.
Yeah, they used
even
to.
More.
Yeah, they used
it's
to
like a painful divorce.
They used to wax lyrical about the good old days when they got to beg the question of an R value and tell us how much boats and buildings were blocked. Now they only get to do that with newbies that don't know any better, don't they? They have to deal with the dregs and straggles that don't realise that they're begging the question when they get into those Earth curve calculations. Of course, they just prefer to moan about us, personally, because they can't do anything against those arguments anymore. So now, what are they going to do? Oh, I really, really used to love the days when we begged the question of a physical geometric horizon blocking the Isle of Man. Now, we never claimed that. What are you talking about? We never claimed it was a horizon that was Earth curve. That's what they have to say now. So they can't even look back in the fond days that they got to beg the question anymore. Because in so doing, they have to remember that they're currently telling us that they haven't got a physical geometric sphere edge for a horizon. It's refracted. Like it was back at the Isle of Man. Yeah, lads? Yeah? That's why Rumpus will never return. Because he had to lie about it, didn't he?
Yeah. I kind of half concede that. Now let's talk about lunar eclipses.
Yeah, that comes out tonight.
Dealing with it.
I don't normally plug the... I do occasionally. I've said that 3 or 4 times now. So I should stop prefacing it by saying I don't normally plug my own show on my second channel, Subscribe Today. But on Nathan Oakley channel tonight is yesterday's show, which was kept open an extra hour because we had a straggly newbie come. It was like, are you guys just a meme? Like, no. So, good show. Check it out. It's on at 9 p.m. UK time on Nathan Oakley channel tonight. So be here or be sphere.
By the way, that guy ended up hanging on Discord and he apologized for his behavior and everything. And we had a pretty good long chat with everybody. So
he was a normie.
Yeah, it was good stuff.
He was a proper normie.
Yeah.
He was a glober. Rare breed to come here. Yeah, I knew he was a normie globie because he conceded stuff. You know, that's not what you do if you're an anti-flat earther. You can't possibly concede to the point where you'll tell your opponent their reference frames are ruined rather than concede.
And it was literally his first time in the arena as well, in the Discord, in exposure to flat Earth, full stop. So, yeah, it was interesting.
Well, he's made his way here. As much as he played dumb and ignorant, he's made his way here. So he's on a path. We know it. He knows it.
At first, he didn't know it was
I've seen a lot of
YouTube show
myself
either,
in
so
it.
that threw him off.
You say that again, Righteous?
At first, he didn't know it was a YouTube show. So once that started sinking in, he realized he was kind of, oh, okay.
Some of the
Yeah,
things
he didn't realize he was interrupting your YouTube show through the Discord when he arrived here. He just thought that you were just part of a Discord server talking in the chat, and yeah, he didn't realize.
See, the tactics he started with, I thought were... Sorry, Neil.
Go on, Neil.
Go on, Neil.
Go on, Neil. Go on, my son. Go on.
Come on.
Go on,
What the
Neil.
hell?
Go on.
Talk to me, Emilio, you mook.
Oh, he's-
Talk to me.
He's sulking. Come on, Neil. Don't be like that.
What's he talking for?
He's probably not. He's probably just doing something on mute.
All right.
You're idiots.
Now he was sulking.
Come on, Neil. What are you going to say?
Now, I was going to say, if you just stumble across it, say you never heard of it, and all of a sudden you stumble across, you hear people talking about the Earth being flat, I guess you could have that reaction. I don't know. I guess I was wrong about him. I thought he was full of crap, and he knew exactly who he was. I mean, what we were and what he was doing there.
That's what I was going to say now. I was confused because the way he came in and the way he was the fundy muting, like natural instinct, I weren't sure. And it wasn't until the concession, I thought, well, what? He's just conceded that it's not physical. Then that's when I just sat back and thought, right, Nathan's going to have about an hour's run through with this. But you could tell he wasn't a flat Earth denier.
Anti-flat earther.
Yeah.
Also, some of the things he said were quite telling. Number one, he asked if we were a meme. And the second thing he said was, after I welcomed him to Flat Earth, I'm not joining Flat Earth. Now, that phraseology says to me he sees this as a cult, as a group.
Club, yeah.
So, to him, that's what Flat Earth represents. We point out, no, not having an Earth curve, which is what you're supposed to have on a sphere, that's what we mean when we say welcome to Flat Earth. You know, you need curvature to be on a spherical surface, and we're not. It's flat. Now, does that mean that I'm part of any particular group? No, I've made a few friends since finding this subject, but that's all that is. Friends, good friends. So, does that mean anything to him? Number one, am I asking him into that social circle that I've now acquired after a few years of doing this? No. You know, he's got a complete wrong idea. He thinks we want to convert him into our cult. So that's his impression. So he's like, you know, in the way he's behaving, he's not recognizing that we're being, or I was especially, being very disrespectful to him, because he's still under the apprehension we want him in our club. It's like, this isn't a club. It's just people who recognize that they've been lied to about the nature of the ground beneath their feet. That's it. They all go about their daily lives on their own. Nobody goes into a scout hut and says, dib, 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 dob, 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 Earth is flat.
I think you should change it to, instead of welcome to Flat Earth, I think you should start just telling people welcome to reality.
Same thing.
They're synonymous.
I've been self-employed, so I'm a 1099 flat earther. I don't join anything.
Hey, guys.
Hold on. Stagoli, go ahead.
Oh, thanks, Nathan. No, I was done. I was just saying that reality and flat earth are synonymous. So saying welcome to flat earth is pretty much saying welcome to reality.
I agree.
Yeah, but if you say welcome to reality, they don't feel like you're bringing them in a club, you know?
I don't care.
Oh,
if
right,
they feel like they're being indoctrinated into a club, if that's how they feel, I don't care.
Neither do I. And by the time it got to committee level, I'd blackball him with that attitude. He wouldn't get in.
Yeah, me too. I was like, keep attacking him, Nathan. Keep attacking.
But that's the reality. He did. I mean, the thing I did. I mean, I'm old, so I didn't get what this meme attack was. Oh, you a meme? I didn't fully comprehend that. But he did sound like he felt we were a cult. I'm not joining. I'm not joining. That concession was him. No. I'm not conceding. I'm not a member. Like that question. Answering that question was his initiation. I think it was.
By default, when you give up the radius, you've already gone flat.
Exactly.
There you go.
I don't think he was at that stage now. I think he's got a long way to go, but I think he was at least recognition of the fact that actually maybe it's not a physical thing, this horizon. But he came in with that knowledge, he thought.
But that's why I kept asking him, what do you think we're living on? You've relinquished the sphere. You acknowledged everything Nathan said. Do you still think you're living on a sphere?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I cut you off and was like, I don't care, Neil. See, do I care about the musings of random normies who stumble their way into our Discord server about the nature of reality? I couldn't give a crap what he thinks it is. I seriously don't care. I know you do, Neil. That's something we could get into now. Do you want to do that?
No, I just want to see where his head is at. Now, if you relinquish that and you agree, and you still think you're living on a sphere, there's a problem somewhere mentally. There's a disconnect.
No, they
It's
don't
his
believe
first
the
time
one.
being exposed to the ideas, so you've got to just convey the concepts and the ideas, and let it sink in with him for a little bit first.
Oh, do
It's
you?
not going to happen overnight.
Oh, do you? Because I seem to remember me saying I've just unbuckled my trousers, taken a dump on your paradigm, and then walked off laughing. So I don't feel like I've got to do that for him at all.
Well,
No, but I think the conversation, the points you actually did make, he was a normie, so he's not gonna. And I'm saying to Neil, he's not gonna just take one thing and allow it to. The way you get there is you look at it honestly yourself. You never listen. Listening to somebody else destroy an argument doesn't bring you to flat Earth. You've got to research it yourself. You've got to inquire and use your own reasoning to get there. And I think that, but that one little thing that now in his head, that horizon isn't a physical lead out, that's going to niggle and niggle for ages. And then he'll look into it maybe in a few weeks and come back, and then there'll be more and more. But that's how.
Yeah, but
normally
that's the
everything, right?
main thing.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, after demonstrating one point where you to say, right then, and so now you must admit it's flat. I think it's too aggressive and not. Some of us make that jump instantly, and we fill all the gaps instantly, and others we have to chew on it.
Hold on, he
You're
didn't
right,
agree
'cause-
to gravity's not real. He didn't agree to gas pressure out of container. He agreed that there was no physical horizon. That's the whole ball. I don't get it.
Okay, we heard that. Hold on, John, and then Righteous. Go ahead, John.
Well, I was going to say that's why I said my modus ponens, because after the Black Swan eviscerates their belief, need to remind them of what we actually measure.
Indeed. Go ahead, Righteous.
I was gonna say, Adam is very correct, because when I first stumbled upon the moon landing, even though it looked ridiculous and everything I seen was like spot on, it really took some time to wrap my head around it, because it was such a massive like revelation, right? So I had to sit on it like a year, and then I decided to give it another look, and I was like, oh yeah, of course. But the first time I seen it, I was like, whoa, it was,
Yeah, but that's the
giving
moon
it some
landing.
time is right.
Yeah, but that's
What's
a big
that?
part of people's paradigm, Neil. I know it's easy for us to brush it off now, but I think Righteous is reminiscing to a time when that was a big part of your paradigm, right, Righteous?
Right.
The notion of travelling through the sky vacuum to a rock in the sky that's physically falling around Earth, that's the essence of the system and the model that you're in faith with,
Well,
if you're on a sphere.
to be more accurate, it was just the idea that a light could be that big. I thought it was like, am I crazy for believing this kind of thing? Like, it felt so, whoa, like, how could something like this be covered up kind of thing? It was really
Yeah,
that
I think it
idea.
sometimes takes time to get used to that and get comfortable with that, accepting that.
Right, because it obviously looked like totally phony and everything like that, but I was like, how could this be? It was like such a big thing to wrap your mind around. Like, how could something like this have gone around everybody like that?
You
Like, it
guys were
was,
talking to him yesterday, weren't you? Did he? Because we're making an assumption again that the paradigm of being able to travel to the moon is broken in his head. He probably still believes in the moon landing, or did he mention that as he?
I don't remember. I think gas pressure without a container did come up at some
No,
stage, but only
I mean,
fleetingly.
afterwards, they said they had a more cordial chat, and I just wondered where his thoughts were with regards to all of those. Some of the things, because that doesn't necessarily mean the Earth's flat, just debunking the moon landing, but there's plenty of anti-flat earthers that still expound that we went to the moon and that was real. So I don't know whether we mentioned that, because
We didn't quite get there because we had to fend off a bunch of globies that kept interrupting our responses to his questions, by trying to start arguments with us.
Oh, he's probably been assimilated
so-
into the Borg by now then.
He went to the eclipses. Once he conceded there was no R, no physical geometric horizon, his next step was, well, what? Okay, I concede that. What about eclipses? What causes eclipses? So he needed an answer for that because we just took away his R. So he's trying to wonder, okay, well then what is that? Because in my former belief, if I may take some liberty here, that's supposed to be the Earth with an R casting that shadow on the moon. So what about eclipses? And Nathan says, I never made any claim about eclipses. You need to concede to the R that it's not there, and that's where we're going to hold you, because we're not making any other claims. So he has so many layers of this lie based on R that he needed each one addressed, but he never got the second one addressed.
What's the way you formulate the about eclipses in your head, you know? And to him, he's saying, well, what about my story about eclipses in the heliocentric model? Like, that's proven a sphere, ain't it? But he doesn't ever articulate it that way.
No, but what he's saying is yes. But based on my understanding that we're in a heliocentric system, the explanation for eclipses is as follows. Insert explanation in the heliocentric model for eclipses here. Therefore, that's how they are working unless you can explain how they work otherwise. It's like, I don't need to explain how they work otherwise to debunk orbital mechanics, the R value, all of the things that are surrounding the heliocentric model, wherein lie your explanations for eclipses. So if you want to make a claim about eclipses, I can rip it to shreds, but I'm not making any claims about them. Do I profess to know what causes eclipses? No. Do I know what the sun is? No. Do I know what the moon is? No. Do I know what the sky is? No. Do I claim to know what any of those things are? No. But there is definitely positive assertions about what the sky is, what the sun is, what the moon is, how eclipses are formed. All of those things can be debunked by us. Doesn't mean we have any necessity to provide any just so stories as a substitute for the ones we've debunked. That is not a burden we have to suffer.
There's two sides to this. Like there's yes, when something is debunked, it's obviously debunked. Like me when I first seen curvature debunked or heavily in question. I still was curious about how some things work though, like how the sun could work and stuff like that. So yeah, those are
No,
two sides to it.
that's the point of a normie, and I think I would say I went through that process. I know Nathan tried to make a map, when early on. You search for an alternative to rationalize it initially for you to abandon their model. But it's getting to this stage where all Nathan's knows. No, we don't have to replace. We don't have to substitute to disprove. And that's sufficient to disprove. The next stage is something completely new, different, and wonderful. But to pretend that I'm going to put it all together is a little fanciful. But a newbie will not allow the rejection until there's a replacement.
Yeah, and without realising that it will employ something called a burden of proof reversal fallacy in order to achieve it, and in so doing, retain the thing you've debunked. Well, if you have no substitution for my current explanation within a paradigm that's been debunked, then I will not accept that it's been debunked, because you have offered no replacement. It's like, that person, in many ways, if you want to look from Neil or other people with similar outlooks eyes in terms of whether or not they'll get it and how beneficial it'll be to them, it's like what they want in substitution for what you're trying to take away from them, you're not offering that, and you haven't got it to offer. So for that particular individual that you're trying to quote unquote convert, it's like the only benefit I see out of for me personally that comes out of this is suddenly an ability to open my eyes to things a bit more, just a little bit wider, be a little bit more skeptical, pay a bit more attention, do a bit more research, and not necessarily fall in line with the paradigms that are foisted upon me and the models that have been deemed correct by the masses. Now, all of those things are beneficial to me from a point of view of critical thought, logic, things that benefit me. Now, if somebody comes along and says, well, why do you think it's flat? And you tell them and you give them all of the replacements that they could ever ask for, well, all they're going to do is want to follow you as their bloody guru. Well, I'm not Jesus. I don't want them following me, right? I don't want you to follow me with looking for answers from me. And the people who try and provide you with them are probably charlatans. Yeah? But people want that. They want to find the next thing to be told about so they can follow it. If this model's wrong, I need another model. Who's got a model? Model? Anyone? You've got one. Let me follow you. That's pathetic. And that's none of the things that I find as benefit. I didn't want any of those things when I found out. But for the people who do, what possible benefit can you serve them? 0 is the answer.
If you're going to forward a singular model and then start defending that in similar political fashion as the globe model has been defended, yeah, that's completely useless. You're just replacing one cosmogony religion for another, right? But to just think of models and just have considerations about the nature of reality, I don't think that is a waste of time as long as you're clear about it.
Yeah, but the people who want a replacement served up on a plate obviously don't want that, and that's my point.
Well, you got a couple of things going on here. You got people who take the reins of responsibility and go dive in and do their own research, which I think most of us here have done. Then you've got people who got their model debunked and they're looking for someone else to give them a new model. So they're right back where they started, being sheep, waiting for someone to either lie to them or, per happenstance, maybe tell them the truth. But they refuse to go and throw their beautiful brain that they got into research so they can stand on their own research and findings. People are just lazy.
Sheep is a good analogy. You walk into the pen and go, you do realise there's a fence around you? Which is all this is. Models. It's a control structure. That's all it is. So by comparison, why not? Analogy. Fence around sheep. And you tell the sheep, you're in a pen. Really? Yeah, look, here's the fence. Oh yeah, you're right, there is a fence. Where's the new pen? Is there another shepherd? You're like, what? No, there's the door. You can go and do whatever you like. Just do it. It's just down to you to do it. No. You need to tell me where the new pen is. Where's the new shepherd? No, you're not getting it, sheep. I'm trying to free you from the pen. No, I need a pen. That's what they're telling you. So you're like, okay, you're a lost cause. Just stay in this pen. That's why I'm like, believe what you like. You want to be on a globe? Stay in that pen. Good for you.
Well, in the Matrix, when Morpheus offers Neo the red pill or the blue pill, what would have actually happened in reality is an agent would have jumped into Neo immediately and killed Morpheus.
That's a nice way of rounding this out. That's probably true. There is a lot of plot holes in the Matrix.
Nah.
This explanation thing or new shepherd thing, whatever, may actually be a thing to help with the cognitive dissonance, so to say. Right? Because you're trying to rationalize that out now. You're like, okay, well, if it's not this, what's going on? So the mind wanders to that. It's trying to rationalize, well, how could this be then, and stuff like that.
Yeah, but unfortunately, most people have been trained in an education system that's comprehensively based. Listen, repeat, comprehend. So you go through that process. Oh, I need to learn something. Well, then I need a teacher standing in front of me with a blackboard who's in authority and knows more than I do and can tell me so I can repeat it. You revert back to whatever education method you've had. So I need to listen to somebody so I can comprehend and then repeat. Not, oh, I wonder what causes that then. Let's go out and find out. Wow, what a world of possibility that lies before me. Isn't that exciting, says very few people. Shockingly to me. I thought everyone would view it the same way as me. Wow. So it's not like in the Truman Show when the teacher pulls down the map and says it's all been investigated already. There's nothing to explore. And he sits there all glum going, oh, right, well, that's a bit of a bummer if I want to be an explorer.
Well, I shared the story with one of the golfers I'm working with. I brought up the subject. And he was familiar with it, but because I'm coaching him, he had respect, and he let me finish, say all the things I said. Then he'd throw back a few questions, I'd answer them. And then we had that long road trip to Washington State for a tournament. And I say, hey, you want to hear some of the show highlights of the show I'm on in the mornings? He goes, yeah. So then I played some of your shows, Nathan. And of course, he's hearing me on your show, but I'm right next to him in the car as well. And he starts cracking up. He just says, man, I like this guy. He's just direct. He goes right at it. And man, these fallacies that he's pointing out. So his mind started to pick up, right? And then after that tournament was over and a week or two passed, he said he had a discussion at home with a family member who was having trouble with the subject. But because he, right after the trip, went and did his own research on these several subject matters that we covered, he on his own came to flat earth. He says, what you said was important. You got the things going in my mind, but I still went and did the research. So when this family member started saying, that's just this and that, he says, I was firing away, just shutting them down. Meaning his own family member, he was ready to be a good defense for the truth of what we're saying. And he still isn't like fully into it, but what little he had, he knew that it could only be flat because it could only function as flat. I mean, it was just beautiful to hear that all I did was drop some seeds, and then his mind took it from there. And that's the key, instead of being a sheep and following blindly.
Speaking of keys, there's another Matrix metaphor in there, isn't it? So Morpheus telling Neo he can only show him the door, but Neo has to be the one that walks through it. Same principle. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink.
Nathan, may I say something?
Yes, you were trying to get in earlier. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I actually, I pretty much agree with what you said, but I think there is a little difference between comprehension, at least in my mind, between comprehension and understanding. I think for the most part, when you go to and you are part of a big educational system, the kids get they are taught to how to understand things, but comprehensions, I think, has a much deeper meaning, I think, at least in my mind. So
Fair enough. Tell us more. What do you mean?
yeah, I think comprehension, at least in my mind, it comes only when you have a deep understanding of things. And just simply understanding things is for me, understanding is more like superficial, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
While comprehension is way more deep. It's like it's a deepening in the knowledge of whatever subject matter you are studying or whatever.
Well, it's certainly a subject I'm interested in. So obviously with two small children, I'm looking to educate them in the best possible fashion. So looking into the way people are educated is something that's very much in the forefront of my mind at the moment. So it's something we'll definitely discuss in the after show. But with that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you first and foremost to both Discord and G+ Panels for making today's live show possible. If you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Also below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. I've been Nathan Oakley. Stay tuned if you're watching on either Premiering stream, and I'll see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!
Boss, independent, and they can sell, and then they can't close the sale because they actually don't know. But I saw you do it in the training, and I went there, and it just didn't work for me. And so I said, well, you saw it, but you don't know it. And until you practice it, drill it, rehearse it, and have a bunch of things go weird so that you can practice, drill those things, why those things went weird, then you fine tune your skill. And so most people are impatient enough to take the losses. If you take enough losses and you're serious about what you want to do, you're going to get wins after that. But the minute they lose, oh, I'm no good at this, I can't do this. And all they did was just give up. And I've trained tons of salespeople to see this every time. So raising children was the same for me. I'd have my kids repeat and describe to me what daddy was saying. Okay, now I said it, but that doesn't mean you got it. So tell me what this is. And all of a sudden they go blank. It's my own kids. I said, well, then you just heard me, pretended by nodding your head, but you really didn't get it. So let's make sure you get it. And once they get it, they get it. And that's the whole point. They got to get it.
Well, there's two routes to knowledge. There's experience, and then there's understanding. The understanding route requires belief. You have to comprehend someone else's claim about reality and believe it to be true to reach that knowledge. And then experience, so comprehension is kind of on that. You need it for knowledge, but I guess that's the knower part.
Well, you have, let me see if I'm thinking the right title here. Explicit versus implicit. There's implicit ways of teaching things, and there's explicit ways of teaching things. I prefer implicit. Implicit is, for example, say someone wants to learn the golf swing. The implicit way is say, let me see you swing the club. And then you say, now watch this guy swing the club. What's he doing? And you let that person who you're teaching describe what he sees a real good swing look like. So what's he doing here? So you're asking questions, you're making that person answer it. And you're saying very little, but you're showing a lot in the implicit way. The explicit way is, sit down, son, let me show you how to do it. And the guy jabbers on for an hour, showing off his knowledge, showing off everything. Now, the kid just has to listen. He's not doing anything, and he's being told. He's not finding it on his own. And so the implicit way is the best way because they're involved. There's a back and forth. And then he says, I think I got it. I say, all right, great. Let's see you swing the club. Then he swings the club and he shanks it. I say, well, what do you think caused that? Instead of telling him what caused it, he says, what do you think caused that? And then the kid has to figure it out. And that's the way you learn.
Right. Even in God's word, he teaches like that by asking questions, right?
Yeah, it's the best
Totally
form
agree.
of teaching. Best form of teaching is asking questions and letting the person have as much airtime as you want to because you already know the answer, but you're going to hold back.
Absolutely.
If I can real quick say one thing from yesterday that happened with the guy that Nathan spoke to and that conversation turning into something absolutely beautiful afterwards, and the guy asking questions and getting these answers that he needed. Righteous Force was a badass, excuse my language, mod yesterday and let something happen that needed to happen. So thank you to Righteous Force for yesterday. I really, really appreciated that and the inspiration that it gave me. And I just think that we need to start talking to more and more people like him as much as we can.
Yeah, I was pleased to hear he, reverted back to norminess because obviously I'm very confrontational. So it's nice that you guys calmed him back down and got a good conversation out of him. Hopefully there was progress, or he's been
He
assimilated.
apologized. He knew he was wrong, Nathan, and it was he came into something without understanding what was happening. You know what I mean? Like I came into your live stream once and I never knew it was a live show, but I was a flat earther. If you come in here and somebody tells you to and you're not, and you think that Nathan's just another guy and I'm, in here, you're gonna get something handed to you. So that's kind of what happened. He owned it, he took accountability for it, and we actually went somewhere with it. So yeah, he ended up being a nice guy.
Cool. Good to hear.
But he was rude to you yesterday. Let's just be real. And you had every right to call him out in the moment.
Standard practice. Wouldn't you agree?
What was that? I'm sorry.
Standard practice. So Adam was saying earlier, he automatically reverted to the fundy mute button, but that's human nature as opposed to a globe or anti-flat Earth trait.
Right. Absolutely. And I think he finally understood how it's happening over here too, and the mute button and all that. He needs to just relax, not come in hot like he was too. But hey, and I think it's gonna end up being something different. And I think we end up having someone on your panel that's gonna see things from your perspective, because he does come from a very common sense and logic, and he's not stupid, believe it or not. So I'm just glad he took accountability and said, and conceded too, and said, no, you're right, I'm wrong. We need more of that instead of these regular Globers who will not admit the truth, but it's right in front of them.
Well, he understood that right away. When Nathan broke
Yeah.
it down, he did not disagree. That was impressive.
I think if he maybe comes back, then he'd be welcome back with the attitude that you're describing yesterday. But that wasn't what he came with, so he'd probably get the same again if he comes back. But if he's going to actually inquire genuinely, which is what it sounds like he was doing afterwards, I think that he'd be more than welcome. It'd be interesting to have him here and share.
Yeah. And he did say he was willing to come back. He said something about being here today or maybe even tomorrow. So he'll be back soon.
Would that conversation have been possible if Nathan hadn't humiliated him?
Don't know,
him,
because
mate.
I tried to have the conversation with him afterwards, because I had called him out how disrespectful he was being to Nathan too, and maybe that disrespect didn't happen back and forth, and him kind of get put in his place and then a good conversation happened after that. I don't know if that would have happened. You're right. So I was grateful that the whole thing happened with Nathan, and he got pushed into a Discord server that he didn't know about. So hey, shit happens, but something good came out of it.
Thanks for clarifying, Stacy.
Yeah, it's a good server. I mean, the fact that there was even the opportunity for them to attempt to assimilate him into the Borg and rumpus the crap out of you just trying to chat to the guy just shows that it's a very balanced server. And I very rarely, if ever, get any complaints about it. And if I do, it's because normally someone's done something wrong, been punished for it, and they want to give their justification 3 million times.
Exactly. There is a balance. Your show isn't the server after you leave every single day. People aren't supposed to be disrespectful to each other. There has to be a balance in entertainment and truth and respect for one another. But at the same time, that also is the same thing applies to your show. This is your show. You run it however the hell you want to.
Yeah, that whole bit with that dude will get trimmed out, undoubtedly, once it goes live, or once it gets published, I should say.
Well, do we have any anti-flat earthers or ballers in Discord who'd like to come in and chat?
Well, actually, if I may say something else, following up with what Tim was talking earlier about learning things and doing things and inquiring into things on your own, and I totally agree with that explanation. I think it boils down to self-realization. And the way in which we learn is very, very different when someone just tell you how to do things or how things are as opposed to through experience, right? So I totally agree with that.
When you have children, the most common trait is why. That's a beautiful time in life. I always enjoyed that time with my kids because it gave me a chance to explain the whys. Now, as you get adults, they don't say why. They're already programmed.
but even that, if I may, even that, just simply saying why is not it's not enough, right? Because if you're just simply saying why, they are accepting that, and also as a form of belief, and they beginning to believe that, oh, this is why. And you can tell them you can almost tell anything to a kid, and they will believe it, right? Because you are in a position of authority, and they will follow it, or they will do in most cases what you tell them.
Well, the kids say,
but yeah, so simply, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
no, it's all right. The kids say why, and then when you give them the answer as a parent, and of course a parent should, because that's your child, you want to bring him up the way you want to bring him up, then they'll say, but why is that? And then you'll say that one, and then they'll say, but why is that? So it's not just one why, it's why is the why the why. And so if the parent, if the parent is not a leader, if the parent is not a self-researcher, if the parent doesn't know the why to the why, then the parent's just regurgitating what they were told by, say, the school system or their parents. I'm talking about really answering the why, and then the follow-up why for the why. It's more than just, here's the answer, now shut up. No, here's the answer, and then they'll say, but why is that the answer?
Were you a flat earther during that point, 10th?
Well, I'm talking about kids as they're growing up. I've shared my story very similar to Chocolate Saint's story. I've always asked why. I still ask why about so many things. But in school, because I was around for the Apollo launches and everything else, I saw the rockets go up. I even bought the models and made the Saturn V rocket a booster. It was just a fantasy. It was wonderful time as a kid, just making those rockets from models. But when I went to school, and it was a science course of some type, I don't know, it was biology or something, and then they brought up evolution, and they brought up all this stuff, and I said, how do we know? Because I was around when it was 3 million miles away, the sun, and then it became 93 million miles. So to me, it's like, how do we know these things? Why is this? And I drove the teacher to the point where the teacher said to me, look, I don't even believe it, but I have to teach it. The minute that teacher said that to me, something clicked in me. Oh, I'm wasting my time asking why, because I'm just being told stuff. He doesn't even know why. My gut feeling told me I wasn't spinning. My gut feeling told me water finds its level. My gut feeling told me you can't divide by zero and get everything in life. There had to be a creator. This is before I was even a Christian. And so the whole point is, I always knew that everything that was because there was a creator. I just didn't know the creator at the time until I started asking, seeking, knocking. And that's all the creator says. Look up and ask, seek, and knock, and I'll answer your prayer. But you got to look up and ask. People won't do that because they're afraid of the answer.
Right. And so when sorry.
No, go
No,
ahead,
it's okay
Angel.
too. I'm really happy you're doing that with your children, though, and more parents need to do that, because I remember growing up in a time, probably because my mother too grew up with 8 other brothers and sisters, so it was busy. You know what I mean? So when we asked why to our parents, a lot of times we got back, "Don't ask why," and we go, well, "Why?" Because mom said so. Don't question mom. You got that, so you just started listening to authority and whatever they said, because parents didn't have time to answer your whys. I'm busy right now. So I don't know if it was a time where everybody got busy, and that's what changed the parents wanting to answer questions. I don't know.
Well, that reminds me,
It's interesting
that happened to me a lot too. It'd be a time where I couldn't answer the why to the why. I'd say, I can talk to you later. I'm busy right now, but right now it's because I'm telling you, but we'll discuss it later. And of course, sometimes later never came because of life, but other times I remember where later came. Okay, Daddy, you said later, because they don't forget. Kids never forget. And I said, oh, you're right. Okay, here's why. I told you wait, because I was busy doing something else, and I had to get that done. So now we can spend time, and I can answer your why to the why, to the why, to the why.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Angel.
Oh, yes, I was going to say that isn't that, I mean, I was just trying to find a correlation with the subject matter, and it's all interconnected, of course, but I was thinking that isn't that exactly what happens when we all come to the realization that of the nature of the world, and it comes, pretty hard, right? Because we have so many preconceived ideas, growing up, and we have been molded to believe certain, to believe whatever the society that you grew up on, believes and such. But it's interesting that when you finally start to see through your own eyes, then you start to realize that, okay, so the world is this way. So what about this? What about that? So you start asking questions, and yes, very often, and also it was someone was it was said before that we don't have to give an explanation to it, and I agree with you, Nathan, that we don't really need to give them an explanation for everything. I mean, we don't know the nature of the real nature of the world, but however, this is it creates a vacuum, so to speak, of the knowledge now that they need to an empty space that they need to fill in. They had the need to fill in with something else, and this is quite
Special.
quite hard for most people, I think.
Depends how you view it. See, you say hard, I said special. Right. So why would it be that we've both got such polar opposite views on this? Well, I'll tell you why. Because I view that as the good bit. The bit when I describe being like a child, which we've had in this discussion, it's the best bit when the kids ask him why. That's the best bit of the kid's life because they're so intrigued with everything around them. Wonderful time. They're like a little information sponge. Brilliant. Well, if you don't have that as an adult, what you're going to do is ask the person who's just taken away your paradigm, leaving you in cognitive pain, to give you something as pain relief. Give me that explanation. It's like, no, the wonderment is in me going, wow, so I don't know what the sky is. I wonder what it is. I wonder. Well, they want me to give them my wonderment, not because they're going to accept it as read. Oh, no. So they can rip it to pieces in contravention of their argument having been pulled apart by me. So that special bit, that's mine. Sod you, you're not having it. What's that? You want me to give you my musings on what I think the sky is? Do I not have them? Yeah, I do. Absolutely. It's the best bit. What's the sky? I don't know. Isn't that exciting? What's that? You want me to muse on it so that you can rip apart what I think it might be? No, thanks.
Yeah, I totally agree. With that. But nevertheless, I'm actually don't disagree with you at all. I totally understand. Is that if you have looked into the world with open eyes and with that kind of wondering about things and the nature of things, looking into yourself, probably, if people have any level of insight about themselves, about who they are, they will, when they are confronted, they will probably, or there is a chance that they would say, oh, yeah, geez, I wonder what that is. And I mean, if it's not this, which definitely isn't, so what is it then? And that level of inquiry, it's wonderful, and I totally agree with that. Sure.
Hey everybody, how are things? Hey Nathan.
Hey Brian. Hey John as well. I'll just round out this subject by saying exactly, if you take this as an opportunity, something that's going to give you wonderment, in most literal terms, when we say I wonder, well, those are all positive things. If you take it as, oh no, I don't know, I must find out from someone who does as quickly as possible, well, then you're probably going to have a very bad time when you come across this subject. But it can go either way. Some people relish the idea of not knowing. That would be me. Other people, it terrifies them. So, hey John, hey Brian.
Hey everybody, hey Nathan.
Yeah, but it's sorry.
I was going to say there's no point in giving them an explanation, whether it's a personal explanation or an explanation that's better than the one they have, because if you give them an explanation that's better than the one they have, and you can back that up, they won't accept it. These people won't accept anything like that. They ask for what creates the pressure gradient for 6 years. We wouldn't answer it. I made a whole presentation on it. Not one of them accepted it, yet not one of them can rebuke it. What's the point?
Right, but you guys are talking.
Sorry?
You guys are talking versus somebody that genuinely wants to learn versus somebody that's resisting you. There's a difference.
Exactly. In inner circles, during the Isle of Man discussion, myself, Ranty towards the end, and several other people were up till all hours in the morning, having the time of our lives. Why? Well, because we were looking at the world around us in very close detail and discussing it amongst ourselves, because we were answering those questions, not because we wanted the opinion of the other person to be ripped apart, although it often was. We would debate amongst ourselves what we were looking at, how it was being measured, all of those sorts of things. Very exciting. Now, there's a stark contrast to some guy who's just had his belief in a sphere Earth ripped from beneath him, asking you to explain something that he's suddenly got a bit of an issue with because he's lost his paradigm. That person, as Brian's pointing out, doesn't want to accept your answer. They want to rip it apart.
And when they can't rip it apart, they just personally attack you. That's all they do. That's all they. But the whole point of what they'll do, or what they're doing, when they can't rip it apart, when it's something they can't, when you're backing up what you're saying, what they'll do is they'll just collectively hand wave it and pretend it doesn't exist. So that's what you're dealing with.
Yeah, or doublespeak, or lie. You know, they've got a few options. But what they're not doing is going, like in the internal discussions I'm referencing, going, wow. And the amount of times I'd sat back with Anthony Riley specifically and gone, wow, isn't the world amazing? And him going, yeah, man, isn't it breathtaking? And us both smiling and enjoying life, doing our little investigation into the world we live in. It was wonderful. Now, contrast that, as I say, with someone saying, no. You're like, what? Why would I want to share this with you?
Yeah, there's no point in sharing those kind of moments with someone like, let's say, George Netchuk. What would be the point? Just as an example, like, why would you want to share any wonderment with that person?
I think because it's pride and embarrassment that they've been indoctrinated so deep that they can't get out of it.
That's their problem.
I think Nathan's response about, oh, you have
Exactly.
questions now. You have questions now. Welcome to the club. I think that's an awesome response to when they ask for answers.
Exactly. So when you go, okay, you've just debunked the 93 million mile distance to a gas in a vacuum. What is the sun then? You go, all right, so you accept now that you haven't got this heliocentric explanation for the sun, right? Let's just get that pegged. So you now understand your bullshit story about what the sun is and how far it is nonsense. So long as you can concede that, we together can say, isn't that exciting that we together can now say, I wonder what it is? Yeah? You and me together can say that. But not before. Because before, you've just got this hope that my explanation for what the sun will be capable of being ripped apart. And if my explanation fails, yours will stand. That's what they're angling for.
Yeah, I mean, it's a human trait in some ways, though, to not listen. You know, it has to be, because I find out a lot of flat earthers too, though. They don't listen. You could tell them several times what something is, and you can make videos about it, and they could say, yeah, we watched that, and it's nothing. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, I don't know what it is. It's just progress. People find progress sometimes collectively hard to make. That's what I think.
Yeah.
Intellectual progress, anyway.
Yeah. Also, do you ever find that people just don't listen to you?
Yeah, I know. I was listening to Brandon's last night, and there was some stuff about the Coriolis effect. I listened to some of it, and I heard people arguing about the rifling of barrels of guns and stuff like that. It's like, I mean, how many times does the Coriolis effect need to be detailed? I mean, to flat earthers, I don't get this. You know?
Yeah, they always take
How
it
many
to the
times?
projectile, don't they? Flat earthers get suckered in immediately. You start saying Earth should be turning underneath a plane to cause it to drift, and that would shorten flight times. And they go, hold on, you said that would shorten flight times, so let's immediately start referencing the projectile, the flight, and how it doesn't have drift. It's like, why are you detailing what's happening in the reference frame that nothing's actually occurring in regards to Coriolis effect? It's a not actual drift, a not actual force. It's not actually curving. It's just seeming to curve because you're turning beneath it. So the effect of Coriolis is you on a turning reference frame looking at something, doing something it isn't. That would be curving when it isn't. So to see it, you've got to be on the ground looking at it. So when they start detailing what the bullet does as it comes out of the gun being rifled, it's like, who cares? The Coriolis effect is observed as you turn beneath stuff. You've got to be looking at it to describe the effect. Who gives a crap what the bullet does?
Yeah, I mean, not everyone in there didn't understand the Coriolis effect. Sorry, there's someone else speaking. I'll go ahead. Not everyone is in there. Not everyone in there didn't understand the Coriolis effect. But what I've heard happen a few times is the same type of people, like SE Montreal or someone, will speak up and say, no, that's not the Coriolis effect. But you end up trying to argue the point or with flat earthers before you ever get to deal with the ballers. And the ballers are trying to bring the flat earthers who are arguing with you back to arguing about what the plane is doing or the projectile. You know, so that's where it ends up. And it ends up with people just being not bothered opening their mouth. So instead of the point being cleared up, it ends up with flat earthers who know better, just not. I'm not saying SE Montreal was in there last night, but I know from what I heard from some people in the background there that some people did understand it, but you just get tired trying to explain it. Like, you know, when your own side is making a point of not understanding this, you know, I don't know, like, what can you do after that?
Well, as long as
I am
you're
quick to
making a
forgive them.
question.
I'm very quick to forgive them, Brian, when it comes to Coriolis effect. Not because of lack of effort on the part of the flat earther that you're describing in this instance, but moreover the tenacity of anti-flat earthers convoluting the subject so beautifully. And they've done it for years. And, you know, I've got Quantum Eraser to thank for having a good comprehensive understanding of the Coriolis force. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have that understanding, and I'd be no different to any of the others. But fortunately, QE was like, how can I expand out my knowledge and understanding of how these conversations get ripped apart by flat earthers, but they're not being. And then he's, you know, taken the time to actually disseminate that information to me, and I've hopefully paid it forward and disseminated it to a few other people who are listening to the show. But that doesn't mean that there's going to be a raft of flat earthers out there who just don't understand Coriolis. As I say, I was one of them.
Well, I just don't think at this stage there's any excuse, Nathan. Maybe I'm more unforgiving than you. I don't see how there's any excuse. I mean, I understand a couple of years ago when the whole thing was convoluted and people were ended up talking about globiolis when thinking that they were arguing about Coriolis. But no, I mean, it's been cleared up several years now, starting with quantum eraser. So I don't have as much forgiveness as you for that.
Maybe, but our reach is tiny. I know you're saying we've ironed out those creases, and I'd agree, but we have a tiny reach. You know, there's a lot more flat earthers out there to be bamboozled by Wiki. So if you go to the Wiki entry on Coriolis Force, I think it's under Coriolis Force in Wiki, there's a blue box on the right hand side that shows 2 reference frames, and with 1 or 2 sentences details it really concisely with a GIF to show you what it is. It's really good. Next to it, in the body, the main body of the text, is globiolis being detailed in paragraph after paragraph of complete contradictory nonsense. That is what you will find and first read through if you come to Coriolis effect. You don't know to just go across to the GIF on the right hand side, double click it so it fills the screen, including the definition underneath, to know that that is actually what Coriolis is. You read the convoluted nonsense about hurricane winds and weather, and you're like, this makes no sense in the body of the text, but yet the GIF makes perfect sense with 1 sentence underneath it.
Isn't that cherry picking?
Yes, but sorry, 1 second before I know someone else asking a question, but just I have to say this because this is what I was going to say at the end. You're calling it as well, and this I'll be honest with you. Now it's you're your own man. You can say what you like, but it drives me up the wall when I hear people calling it the Coriolis force. It's a visual effect, and it is nothing more than that. There's no force involved. It doesn't cause anything. The whole calling it a force thing comes from the ball side when they're trying to claim that it causes hurricanes and cyclones.
That's not right.
And other things.
That's not correct. I was called out on this by Paula. Quick shout out to Bible Literalist, now level up. So I said that to Paula, and she very quickly corrected me. So,
okay, then.
You say it's not a force. Okay. You're correct. It's a not actual force. It's an apparent force. Apparent means appearing, but not actual. So it appears. So let's just establish, first of all, that this is something you can see happening. So it is something that's occurring, right? It's apparent. You agree?
Yeah, but you're talking about it being a pseudo force.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, but
this is
why?
where this
That's
is
right.
where I have a problem.
Yeah, you are right. I'm not going to say it isn't an actual force. But why use the word force? And that's what I'm going to break down as Paula broke down for me. So when you're on the spinning reference frame, that's the non-inertial reference frame. And this is, again, thanks to Paula, I can remember this without having to give it any thought. So previously, before she explained this, I had to wrap my head around and try and remember which was the inertial and which was the non-inertial reference frame, because it never made any sense in terms of the terminology. Why is the spinning reference frame the non-inertial reference frame? How does that make any sense? Well, I'll explain. Because you're attached to it from what you are going to see and describe happening, you are non-inertial. That would be to say you and the reference frame are as one. You're not going to be detailing the inertia of the reference frame, because the effect you're detailing is the force that you see applied in the curved path that you observe. Therefore, your reference frame, in other words, as far as you are concerned, you are non-inertial. You're not moving around on the turning platform. You're attached to it. So as it moves, you move. So you're non-inertial. But the effect that you're going to see and detail is an inertial effect. The curving is the effect that you're describing. Therefore, that effect is the inertial effect in that reference frame that you are watching and describing the effect of. Ergo, that's taking place in the inertial reference frame. So non-inertial, the turning reference frame, is where you view an inertial effect from, yeah, so all that notwithstanding any of what I've just said and agreeing with you. However, what I've detailed from a non-inertial spinning reference frame is an effect in an inertial reference frame of something curving when it doesn't actually curve, because it's a pseudo force, a not actual force. Whatever you're observing seemed to curve, actually travelled straight, you just turned beneath it. So it seemed to curve. Hence, inertial reference frame is the one that you're observing from. Sorry, got it wrong. Non-inertial, get it wrong right at the bloody end, is the one that you're observing things from. And the inertial is the one that the item travels straight in actuality, but from your vantage point on the non-inertial spinning reference frame, appears to have a force applied to it. There you go.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't agree with it at all. Being called
Tough luck.
Being called a force. Because I'll tell you why. Because even if it's then when you question how is it a force, when you explain and detail it, and people say then, well, it's a pseudo force, right? The problem with that is, number one, pseudo force means it's not a force. What it really is in the real world is an effect. Okay, so it's an effect. It's a visual effect. But the other problem with calling it a force is this: it allows for people on the ball side of things and in general, the general world, to believe it's, when you say this the Coriolis force, when they hear that term, they think of something that forces, that causes something. So when they're told then that this Coriolis force causes hurricanes and cyclones and whatever else, and water to swirl in different directions in toilets, north and south of the hemisphere, of the equator line, then that means like that it's causing this. But then if it's detailed to them, well, it's a pseudo force. It's still, they don't make the connection of, well, how can it be causing these things if it's a pseudo force? Because pseudo force still has the word force in it. It's a visual effect.
Pseudo means intentionally deceive.
Let me just answer to him. Yeah, that's absolutely spot on, and I completely agree. They've hijacked the language to achieve this little bit of magic, and the magic of scrambled egg confusion, basically. And yeah, I completely agree with you. Why use the word force? I never detail it as a Coriolis force. You know, that's just not something I do. Go on. whoever that was.
What's the that's Paul? What's the difference between observation and a force?
Well, a force can do something, but in this instance, I can give you an example where the description of the Coriolis of force can hurt you. I'll give you an example, right? You're on a roundabout and you've got a tree limb above the roundabout. It's dangling at a height that can hit you. Now, as you rotate towards the tree limb, the force that I'm going to describe is the force of the tree coming towards you. Oh no, the tree is coming to get me. Look, it's going to smack me. Ow! Yeah, that's the Coriolis force that did that. Well, was it actually a force of the tree coming towards you? Did the tree come towards you? Is it the Whomping Willow? No. The actual force was you rotating beneath it on the non-inertial reference frame when detailing Coriolis effect. So therefore, the causes of the Coriolis effect, that would be you rotating beneath things, can definitely cause other effects to happen, like your flight being shortened. That would be the natural effect of us rotating beneath things. So detailing it as a pseudo force has some validity, but I understand where Brian's coming from. He's completely correct. They've utilised that confusion, if you will, between a pseudo force described from a non-inertial reference frame and an actual force that can spin hurricanes. Totally absurd and incorrect, but that's what you've got to do if you're going to hijack a ground that doesn't move and turn it into a force that gives you hurricane movement when you're trying to explain rotating platforms that we're not seeing drift from. Quickly turn it into a hurricane rotating. Everyone will be confused. Anti-flat earthers can argue all day about how we don't have drift. Globe believers can believe we turn underneath bullets without realising that hurricanes have got sod all to do with that, and there's just left with a scrambled egg of mess that nobody understands. Wonderful if you're an anti-flat earther.
And
I always
also,
thought,
you beg the question
simple
of an
understanding.
axis. Also,
I'm going to say, go ahead, John.
And it
Go
means
ahead, John,
intentionally
first.
deceive.
Oh, don't make things worse, Neil. Go ahead, John. Then Paul.
I was going to say, and the whole time you're going to beg the question of an axis when you talk about this subject.
That's right, Black Swan, baby. All of this is moot. John's ace. Yes, thank you. Go ahead, Paul.
Can I speak now? Oh,
You can after Paul.
I've always understood it. The Coriolis effect is an apparent, which is a visual effect. Now, there may be other factors in play, but we're talking about a visual effect, not, and we're not, you understand what I'm driving at. It's
Yeah,
not
it's
necessarily,
apparent.
I know there's forces involved, but it's
apparent. Apparent. When you say visual, it's an apparent effect. Appearing, but not actual. It appears to curve, but it's not actually curve. It apparently is curving. So when you say optical, apparent, that's what you mean. Apparent meaning you see it. So you see your mate jump off a sphere Earth that's turning and curve away from you at 1,000 miles an hour on the equator. Said nobody ever. But the effect is the apparent curving away when a man just jumps up and down. Because obviously on a turning Earth with Coriolis deviation, a man jumps off that turning reference frame, and from your vantage point watching him, he just flies away in a curve at 1,000 miles an hour, doesn't he? That's what Coriolis would be if Earth was turning. Now, we don't see that effect because we don't have it, we're not turning. But that is the effect that they'd have if we were turning, and they assert we have it. They say Earth has Coriolis effect. Therefore, we're turning underneath stuff. We're just not. It's just a lie. We're not. We're not spinning. Right, Neil.
Okay. It's an optical illusion, number one. Number two, pseudo means intentionally deceive.
Can mean. It's got multiple definitions. Can mean that.
Yeah.
Fake,
Isn't that a
sham.
little funny?
Sham.
Yeah.
Doesn't necessarily intend.
Isn't that a little warning sign?
Intent to deceive would mean lie. When you say pseudo, it doesn't necessarily mean you're lying. Again, in terms of pseudoscience, it's only pseudoscience if you've punted it as having been through the method when it hasn't. But pseudo, fake, sham, doesn't necessarily mean intent to deceive.
That's one of the meanings.
I just said that.
Yes. That puts up red flags to me. Why would anybody want to intentionally deceive me with some pseudo force? And it's an optical illusion. I thought we understood this.
I'm going to say that twice. It doesn't necessarily mean that is the use of it. Anybody else? Any more for any more?
No, but it just calling it a force or even pseudo force allows for it to be manipulated into something it's not.
Right.
Thank you, Brian.
I'm not saying everyone.
That's true. Yes, it can be, therefore, intentionally used to deceive in that instance. However, I can accurately describe the Coriolis force without any inaccuracies or intent to deceive, and still use the word pseudo when describing it accurately and correctly. And I've not deceived anybody. I've described the pseudo force accurately. So where's your intent to deceive? Where's your sudden concern that because I've detailed the pseudo force that is Coriolis, that makes me in some way deceptive? It does not.
No, but calling it a pseudo force is stating that it's not actually a force.
Yeah.
But would it not be more correct to always refer to it as the Coriolis effect?
Correct.
As that is what it actually is.
I would agree, and I do, and yes, absolutely, I do, and would advise you to just call it the Coriolis effect, because it is an apparent occurrence, i.e. it appears, doesn't mean it's actual, it is a pseudo force, and what Brian's saying is this accurately described as a pseudo force is often hijacked into an actual force that can do things, like spin hurricanes, when it isn't. That's not what Coriolis is. It is not a force. It cannot do anything. Describing not actual curved trajectories isn't going to cause anything to happen. But that's what they take the meaning to mean when they say it's going to do something like spin a hurricane, right, Brian? So they just hijack the pseudo force, lob off the pseudo bit, and decide it's going to do things when it doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, John.
I have a bit of advice for you.
Don't eat
If your
greasy
name's not Nathan Oakley, do not get into a Coriolis effect argument. Just don't do it. I'm telling you, just don't do it, because if you don't have the acumen to not only understand what you're talking about, but counter their fallacious, nonsensical, farcical buffoonery, don't do it. Just go. There's plenty of other arguments. Just there's nothing to see here. Step aside. Right? That's my advice.
Yeah, I would agree.
I agree.
There's a reason for that. Number one, credits. Quantum Eraser detailing concisely 10 times how Coriolis force worked to me till I got it. And then number two, seeing a video by Carl Jobst about a speedrunner doing doom speedruns on these tightrope 2-pixel wide walls that he had to negotiate going fast in a speedrun, and he hated them. I've detailed this story several times, but I'll give the concise version. As a result of him hating these walls and practicing them again and again and again and again and again, to the point where he got good at them, he eventually learned to love the walls and be better at everyone else at doing them, to the point where they found a cheat where they could ignore it, go past the walls without doing them, and he was still faster by speedrunning them on these tightrope walls that he'd learned how to do after hating them. Now, I hated Coriolis effect because it's a convoluted cluster screw of nonsense with globe earth assertions, anti-flat earth assertions, flat earth misapprehensions about what it is, and globe rhetoric that's contradictory on Google and Wiki. So it's very, very difficult to pick your way through it, like a tightrope, easy to fall off the wall. Now, when I saw that analogy, I'm like, that is where I want to be at. I want to love Coriolis. Yeah? Now, I do love the subject because I'm good at it, because I understand it to the point where I can rip the rhetoric apart. But I don't, and I said this earlier, I don't decry anybody that doesn't, because I understand that it's a tightrope. It's a very narrow wall that you can easily fall off and end up in a 2-hour discussion that doesn't leave anybody winning or losing and everybody watching confused. I've been there, man. I've tried to edit the videos from 4 hours down to 2. You know what I mean?
Begging the question's dangerous.
Yeah. And the rebuttal to the Coriolis argument is to assume we've got 15 degrees an hour drift that's negated by the 15 degrees an hour turn of the Earth and the atmosphere together. So you've got a three-way begging the question fallacy, all of which assumes a sphere Earth that's spinning, in rebuttal to the claim that we have us turning beneath stuff to see drift that we don't. Any more for any more?
So no drift.
So no drift, we're not turning beneath stuff. That's right. We should, if we were on a turning Earth, see drift at 15 degrees an hour. That's their claim. We don't.
That's the quickest death, because if they're going to argue it in the convoluted way that everyone's just heard, so then what you're saying is there is no drift, but you want to say it happens to the bullet, it happens, to hurricane winds. And then you got Neil deGrasse Tyson coming and saying it happened to a football. And then you got Nathan Oakley saying, well, if it happens to all those things, why doesn't it happen to a helicopter or a drone or the Goodyear blimp over a stadium? Or flight times from Charlotte to LA.
Right.
Well, that ain't happening.
But see, what they do then is start talking about north, south, east, west. That's where they go to.
It don't matter.
And they start to have an argument about something east and then something north and some other nonsense.
I don't care what cardinal coordinates you give it. If it's turning, it's turning.
Exactly. The only force that's involved in the Coriolis effect is the force that turns the non-inertial reference frame. That's it. There is no force. It's an effect.
And that's why they...
But there is turning, right?
Yeah, but that's why they hijacked it, because that reference frame in the description, that's where your hijacking can come in. That force is ignored in the description. That's why your inertial reference frame is the one that's being observed with the curve. And your non-inertial, not inertial reference frame is the one that's got the inertia. Well, that little tiny detail of confusion is where it all begins. Because that's where the force lies, as Brian points out. That's where you've got an actual force. You've got a turning reference frame. Well, the force is the force turning it, if you want to ascribe a force. Because the force you're going to describe in Coriolis pseudo force isn't actual. It's a curve that's not actually happening. It just looks like it. But only looks like it, and that's what's being described, what it looks like, because you can describe your reference frame as non-inertial. Otherwise, you'd be describing how you're turning and things around you turn. It wouldn't give you Coriolis descriptions. So you've got to be non-inertial to have the Coriolis force of the thing curving, because that's what the force is, it curving. Well, what's that you say? It doesn't actually curve? Yeah, that's right.
You and your reference frames are ruined.
Instead, an anti-flat earther who hasn't got the vaguest idea how Coriolis works, that would be Simon Dan.
Well, I'm still saying it's useful for them, because if they can convolute it, then they can keep the axis, and that's really what they want. They don't really care whether they win the point itself, because they're still getting you to beg the question with them.
Correct.
Well, John, that's like yesterday when Nathan took the guy who came on and he conceded there is no radius. Then he wanted to talk about eclipses. And what you just said is, hey, you take away the radius. Now they want to talk about this not actual apparent visual thing and go there. But really, hey, we just destroyed the axis, which is key to your Coriolis. What are you talking about?
Yeah, the whole conversation is moot now. That's what you should take away from this. Not go and learn what inertial reference frames are, or non-inertial, or how Coriolis gives you not actual deflection, or what the not actual deflection is, or how Earth turning beneath stuff would cause flights to be shortened. Don't learn any of that. Learn John's argument. So I've just babbled on for about 20 minutes. Do you want to chop off all of my anti-flat Earth misunderstandings and concise understandings of Coriolis effect in one sentence, John? Not QE, father of a stolen child.
Got to have a radius to have an axis.
So to have this axial rotation, I'll be measuring it in what now?
Radians.
And you'll need a radius for that. Black Swan. So, to be perfectly honest, all of my understanding given to me by Quantum Eraser and sharpened by Carl Jobs' examples of Doom speedruns, it's kind of redundant. It's not even required. You don't even need to know what Coriolis effect is. What's that you say? We've got axial rotation? We're spinning? No, we haven't got a radius value. It's the end of that argument.
But for people who are more normies, And for people in the flat earth side who don't seem to get it, what the Coriolis effect is, what you will have is the ball, well, the anti-flat earthers, their example will always be a rotating globe. Always. They'll never use a roundabout or anything else. They will always be the rotating globe. That's why they'll throw in something like, well, north, south, east, west. But you don't talk about north, south, east, west on a rotating roundabout, and a children's roundabout or something like that. But you do if you're speaking about coordinates and distance and directions on a globe Earth. And that's where they always bring their example back. Their example always goes back to the rotating globe, and when you start taking that apart, they want to have arguments about the projector.
Yep.
So it's
Can't have a globe without a radius.
Yeah, exactly. You can have a globe without a radius, but Brian's point still stands. Exactly. Number one, you can debunk it with the black swan. Sorry, was that someone from Discord? Go ahead.
Yeah, because the projectile is very important.
Not Coriolis. Coriolis is you observing things from a spinning reference frame.
Okay.
So to have Coriolis, you've got to observe it from the spinning reference frame. Do you understand that, Virus?
Okay. Yeah.
So to have Coriolis on a globe Earth that spins, you're on a globe Earth that spins, rotating underneath stuff. That's what Coriolis is.
Well, it's for any rotating surface. It doesn't have to be a
Yeah, it doesn't have to be Earth, that's right. But for that effect on any rotating surface claimed to be on Earth as a rotating surface to occur, you would be rotating underneath hot air balloons, Virus.
Yeah, but isn't it more than just that? Because things just don't go in one direction according to the deviation.
Did you not hear me say who cares? It's the effect that you observe from the ground turning beneath stuff. So in terms of the actual trajectory of the hot air balloon or aeroplane, it's irrelevant. You're detailing a not actual deflection that you observe from the ground. That's the effect. It's not the actual path. That's unaffected by this observation from the ground as you turn beneath stuff, Virus. So we're back to the beginning. You understand, to have this effect, you'll be turning beneath stuff. Right?
Yeah, but why would things go in multiple
Don't ask me
directions?
something, just yeah. You understand, yes, Virus, that to have this effect, you'll be turning beneath stuff, yes?
Okay, yeah, I'll go with that.
Yeah, excellent. So to have this effect on Earth, you'll be turning beneath hot air balloons, Virus.
Is it just stationary?
Why are you asking me something? So to have this effect on an Earth that turns, you'll be turning beneath hot air balloons, observing them drift away, Virus.
That's if it only works for...
Sorry, why aren't you saying yes, you bloody coward? Why is this taking so long? You understand, to have Coriolis, we're turning beneath stuff. So to have Coriolis, we'll be turning beneath, specifically at hot air balloon, Virus.
Nah.
No, we're not turning underneath hot air balloons. Or no, we wouldn't have that effect if I'm on a roundabout turning beneath a hot air balloon. I'm pretty certain on a roundabout I'd have that effect there, Virus.
No, not...
No, you think if I am on a roundabout, the fucking hot air balloon tracks with the roundabout?
No.
No, so if I'm on an Earth that's turning, like the roundabout, I'm going to turn underneath the hot air balloon to see this effect, aren't I, Virus? But we don't, do we?
Not for you.
No, so we don't have Coriolis effect on Earth, Virus. We're not seeing things drift away because we turn beneath them. And yet we can see it on a roundabout turning beneath the hot air balloon, but not on an Earth turning beneath it. Well, that makes no sense. It just proves we're not spinning beneath things. We don't have Coriolis effect. That would be us turning beneath the hot air balloon, something you were reluctant to say yes to. Until I took it to a roundabout. And then obviously the roundabout's not tracking with the balloon above it. But as soon as it's Earth supposed to be turning under the hot air balloon, suddenly no.
Well, that's a non sequitur to Coriolis.
It is Coriolis, as you conceded. Suddenly a non sequitur because Earth's not turning beneath a hot air balloon. No, Earth just doesn't have Coriolis. Not non sequitur, just not happening.
No, the hot air...
Yeah, we're not turning beneath hot air balloons. Let's see if you can concede that. Earth turning beneath things is Coriolis. Us observing them seem to drift as we turn beneath. You've conceded that. Now we'll see if you can concede that we're not turning under hot air balloons or not.
Well, according to the globe claim, we shouldn't.
Shouldn't have Coriolis effect. Us turning beneath things, yeah, we should. It's claimed we have Coriolis effect. Don't you know your own stupid model?
It's a non sequitur.
Sorry, don't you know your own stupid model? Earth is definitely claimed to have Coriolis effect. You're a retard if you think that's not the case.
Not for a hot air balloon.
Sorry, you're a retard if you don't appreciate that the globe claims we have 15 degrees an hour drift. That's Coriolis effect.
All Coriolis is 15 degrees?
Sorry, why are you asking me a question or stating something about Coriolis effect? It's claimed globe has that. You've denied it.
No, you know.
So you said it was non sequitur.
You know Coriolis, right?
Sorry, don't tell me what I know. It's claimed Earth has Coriolis. You've denied that because it's not happening now. So I'll just point out for the audience. He knows what Coriolis. He conceded that that's turning beneath stuff to see it seem to drift. I detailed it with a hot air balloon under a roundabout. All good, yeah. Roundabout not tracking with the roundabout, with the hot air balloon. Seems to drift because you're turning beneath it. As soon as it moves to Earth turning beneath the hot air balloon, suddenly no. Suddenly non sequitur. That's where we're at. Is this going to be the end of the road, Virus, with you just not moving past this?
Oh, we can move past this once you...
No, I'm saying we're not moving past it. You've said it's non sequitur to assert Earth should turn under a hot air balloon to have Coriolis. We've got to the point where we say, no, Earth isn't giving us Coriolis effect. And you've said, no, it's non sequitur. Earth doesn't claim that. Yeah, it does. That's where we're at. You're now denying that claim of Coriolis on an Earth that spins, Virus? Anti-flat Earther suddenly.
Nope, I just said...
no, yeah, that's what you're doing, Virus. Don't say no. Yes, you're denying we're supposed to have drift now. You're saying, no, Earth doesn't have that. Yeah, we know Earth doesn't have Coriolis effect, but it's supposed to. That's the problem. You're denying that it's supposed to have Coriolis.
No, I'm not.
Okay, so does Earth turn underneath a hot air balloon to give us Coriolis drift?
The hot air balloons are non sequitur.
Why are you stating something rather than just saying no?
Not with the hot air balloon.
So Earth doesn't have Coriolis effect as claimed then?
Nope, I'm not saying...
So we don't have Coriolis effect. It's claimed you do, though, Virus, on an Earth that spins. That's the end of the argument for an Earth that spins. It's claimed we have 15 degrees an hour drift. That's Coriolis effect. Observable from the ground as you turn beneath hot air balloons. And we don't.
I think he's saying that is... Nathan, I think he's saying that Coriolis is selective, probably. You know?
No,
it works with some things and not with others.
I'm not saying that either.
Well, I don't care what you're saying. We've got to the point where...
focusing on a projectile.
For the 50,000th time with Ackenbars, because we've been down this street many times. Can you define the Coriolis effect?
Did you hear his question? Can you
Whose question?
Can you define the Coriolis effect for us, please, Virus?
The apparent drift of an object that's not really drifting, that's actually going in a straight line, but only appears to drift to the observer on the ground.
Because what? Sorry.
You say what? Cause? Because I ain't say no cause.
So what causes the apparent drift in Coriolis?
Different speeds of the land.
You've gone very quiet there, Virus. Get right up on the mic and say, Earth turning beneath a fucking helicopter.
Different land speeds of the ground underneath the object that is moving.
Oh, so we've got different ground speeds of the Earth under a hot air balloon then?
Nope, that's why I don't show...
No, we don't have Coriolis effect. Earth isn't spinning. That's right. It's claimed we've got different speeds underneath hot air balloons. And yet that doesn't happen. Only for you to tell me it's non sequitur earlier. Yet a part of your definition is Earth turning beneath things. And that doesn't happen under hot air balloons. Happens under roundabouts. Just doesn't happen on an Earth that's not spinning. Therefore, we don't see the effect. No hot air balloons drifting away at 15 degrees an hour, Virus.
Coriolis isn't just 15 degrees.
Sorry, it's 15 degrees an hour claimed to be Earth turning beneath things. You've just detailed what Coriolis is in the definition, and that doesn't happen, Virus.
That's not the rate of Coriolis.
Sorry, you've just defined Coriolis. You're going to tell me your definition that you've just read out's wrong?
I didn't give a rate.
Sorry, the rate is irrelevant. It's the reference frame turning beneath that gives you the effect.
Rate is very important.
Sorry, who gives a crap about the qualitative value? It's 15 degrees on an Earth that's supposed to be spinning. We just don't see it. There's no anything degrees underneath a bloody hot air balloon virus.
You're looking for something where...
Sorry, don't tell me what I'm looking for. You need 15 degrees an hour drift. I'm not looking for anything.
We don't claim 15.
Yeah, you need 15 degrees an hour drift before you tell me what you don't claim. You claim Earth turns beneath 15 degrees an hour. Do you remember thanking Bob for Earth claim to be turning underneath the gyro at 15 degrees an hour? That's a globe claim. You claim Earth turned beneath at 15 degrees an hour. That is the claim. It just doesn't happen. Because when I point out that if I was turning beneath a hot air balloon on a roundabout, I'd notice. That's definitely faster than 15 degrees an hour, not that it matters. But Earth's supposed to be turning underneath the hot air balloon at 15 degrees an hour, and it doesn't happen. That's all that matters. I don't need you to tell me what Earth is claimed to have. You're a clown.
Then that's obviously not Coriolis.
But your claim is akin to you claiming that the sun rises at a different rate as per a person's latitude.
No, because the sun isn't Coriolis.
In your model, at 15 degrees an hour.
Sorry, he's just said the sun is not Coriolis. So you're saying that on the heliocentric model, it is not claimed that Earth turning beneath the sun at 15 degrees an hour causes its movement. You are fundamentally stupid and don't understand what the heliocentric model is and what it claims. Because the sun's movement is absolutely unequivocally a Coriolis claim, you stupid buffoon.
Where is it deviating?
Sorry, you stupid idiot. That is Coriolis, you stupid idiot. How many times am I going to have to call you a stupid idiot based on the fact you've just declared that the sun's movement in a heliocentric model isn't Coriolis at 15 degrees an hour? You stupid idiot.
Coriolis is 15 degrees.
Sorry, Virus doesn't know his own stupid model. I'm a flat earther and I do. I also know how to rip it to pieces by asking a few leading questions of the moron that doesn't understand what Coriolis is, even though he even read it out himself only moments earlier, is then going to violate his own description by saying, no. Earth isn't claimed to be turning underneath the sun at 15 degrees an hour. The sun movement isn't Coriolis. That's what you've just said, you stupid idiot. Yeah, Earth's claimed to be turning beneath stuff at 15 degrees an hour, including the sun. Unfortunately, that would give you Coriolis deflection from bullets, hot air balloons, airplanes. All of those things would drift away at 15 degrees an hour also. And when Neil deGrasse Tyson details how a ball did drift through the goal because Earth turned beneath, I can assure you that that is the globe claim that you're desperately trying to deny.
No, it's not 15 degrees.
You're an idiot. Kick him out. He doesn't understand his own stupidity. 15 degrees an hour is what the globe claims. You're going to argue about your own stupid claim you don't understand. You're not worthy of being here. You're stupid.
That's rotation.
You're stupid. Get out. What are you even doing here? Telling me it's not 15 degrees an hour. The globe claims 15 degrees an hour of drift as Earth turned beneath stuff. It doesn't turn beneath hot air balloons. You've conceded that. That's the end of the claim. Now, unlike George Netanyahu, you're not going to have my job over this comprehensive understanding of the bullshit globe claim that we have drift at 15 degrees an hour, or deny it, or claim it's negated completely by the conservation of momentum. I understand what the globe claim is. It's claimed to have 15 degrees an hour drift, and when I prove it wrong with a hot air balloon, you tell me you don't claim it anymore. Chant for me, bitch. Chant the globe doesn't claim 15 degrees of drift, so I can welcome you to stationary Earth.
He left.
Good.
I kicked him out.
Good. Chanting that the globe doesn't have 15 degrees an hour is the end of his argument. I don't claim the globe claim is his defence.
Sidereal and solar.
Sidereal and solar times being different debunks their claims of a rotating Earth anyway, because it means that there's two different rates of motion in the sky, but their claim is that the Earth is doing a 15-degree rotation.
Are you still here, John? Other John, father of a stolen child. You still here?
No, I'm still here.
Perfect. So when this reached the conclusion when I would normally round out the show, virus piped up. But can you just render every single discussion point we just had moot, please?
You don't have a measurable radius. You don't have an axis to claim rotation on.
Black Swan, baby. With that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and becoming a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member. Also, below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a day! What a lovely day!